Lothar, throw a punch at that brick wall over there.
From here?
Absolutely.
Welcome back to the Titanium Hangar. This is Mike, and I'm coming at you with another entire collection review. Yes, today I'm going to review the entire Defenders of the Earth collection from Galoob from 1985. Yes, this did have a TV show to go along with it, and it is a fun toy line. There's some characters in here that are very familiar, and these characters are now being brought back by Neca, and it's a whole lot of fun to check these out. So we're going to look at these, see every figure. There's 6 figures, 6 vehicle types, and we're going to look at all of that, and look at the carded stuff, do some comparisons to other toy lines, and comparisons to Neca. All this and more coming up. Okay, so we're going to start out looking at Flash Gordon, and these are more of like a 5-inch line, and so looking at the 3.75-inch over here with the G.I. Joe from the original, that's a Sergeant something or another, and then here we go with Gung Ho. I've been waiting to work him into a video because I do like the original colors, and this is what I think G.I. Joe Classified should have been, but aside from that, let's compare him to something else around the 5-inch scale, like a He-Man. He-Man is considered a 5.5-inch scale, so he's slightly taller, just way bulkier. This is a more human proportion, and I kind of like that. Lastly, he's a little bit taller than the Superpowers, which are about 4.5-inch figures. So that's about where he scales with vintage. Let's get in and take a look at this guy. Let's take a quick look at his card back, and it is Flash Gordon, Defenders of the Earth. It's got the whole symbol and emblem up there, you know, the symbol like we see right here. And then it's made by Galoob. It includes the energy sword, so each one of them has one special weapon and a sidearm, which is exactly the same. They all have the same sidearm. Story about this, I don't really want to go after carded vintage stuff, and there's all 6 of the figures. I don't want to go after the carded vintage stuff. I just want to get a loose set, but you know, the story behind this is that a year and a half ago when I started collecting these, I did get a set of figures mostly all loose, but mostly missing their accessories, and so I started picking up carded for cheaper than people were asking for complete loose ones, so that way you can get some minty ones. But then I found cheaper loose ones along the way, and I didn't have to open them, which I hate opening vintage sealed packaging, and it's kind of fun to have for the video. Okay, looking at the figure himself, he looks very simple and boring, kind of like the Neca figure, although the Neca figure looks cooler than this. It is kind of a boring, simple figure. Now, when you look at the cartoon and the media and all that kind of stuff, I thought, because I'd never really watched the cartoon as a kid, I sort of semi-remembered a little bit, but Flash Gordon, I thought he ran fast. And this dude doesn't run fast. He doesn't. He is like a captain. He is just like a normal guy. He's a military leader, basically. He's Duke, down to the blonde hair. So anyway, he does have some good paint apps. The eyes look good. I mean, really, the eyes, he even has pupils, so that's pretty awesome. White pupils? I don't know. And some yellow. Mine's probably not in the best of shape, but he's still a pretty good figure overall. Now, they all have this Battle-Matic feature, and I got to wondering, you know, what are you? LJN? 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 Okay, so Galoob definitely ripped off the LJN gimmick here, but getting into the figure, so he does have what they call an energy sword, and it's, I would think, a paint app on it, or maybe it being red or a different color than black would have made sense, but all the good guy weapons are black and the bad guy weapons are red. He does come with a signature blaster that all of them are going to have the exact same one, and so with that, he's a pretty decent figure, kind of boring, kind of lame, but let's compare him to his Neca counterpart. Now, Neca has recently made these figures, and they're okay. A lot of people talk about really bad QC on these and all this kind of stuff, but he does come with his sword, and it is transparent, so it's kind of got an energy sword. It does have the same signature type of gun, except it's upgraded, and blast effects on it, and all that good kind of stuff. But a lot of people are talking about how, I remember the pictures floating around, how like the entire hip socket just broken out of the figure. And I haven't had a problem with that with any of these. Now, I am very careful with it because I saw all that, but, you know, mileage may vary, and the first person who has a problem, it just kind of gets amplified. So I haven't had an issue with any of these. He just fell over. But one of the things that I think a problem is with this design of this figure, I don't think that they needed to put the toe in, that toe tilt, but there's Neca improving on Flash Gordon. Okay, so next up we have the Phantom, and the Phantom is just kind of a purple. In my opinion, he's a purple version of Flash Gordon, except without the shoulder pads and a different kind of belt. But for the most part, they reused parts on this, so it's very, very similar to Flash Gordon. And yeah, it's a cost-saving measure and all of that. He looks like the show, and he's got his... it's not glasses, is it? Is it either glasses or he's just wears kind of like a Lone Ranger mask kind of deal that's going on there? But he is cool. He's one of the cooler aspects of the show, and he does call on the power of 10 tigers to do whatever he needs to do. He does have the Battle-matic situation here, but he comes with a different kind of accessory. Now, his accessory is a whip. Now, the handle to the whip looks strange, like this, and then it's got a piece of string tied to it, and of course it is going to take good advantage of the Battle-matic action to fling a whip around, just kind of like the Indiana Jones did, and that's kind of what he does. But we'll see him later. We'll talk more about him later, because he does have the Phantom Copter that he's going to be in when we look at the vehicles here in a little bit. But very simple, very plain. And at first I was thinking this line was kind of boring and plain, but then we get into the next few figures, which get really interesting. I don't know what Tamiza's saying here, but I do have the Neca version of this guy. So the Neca one does look a lot cooler and probably more like the cartoon, and of course with the signature blaster that we have with the Flash Gordon figure. Still kind of plain, but geez, all the muscular design. I believe this buck was used for some sort of DC characters that Neca did once upon a time. I guess he got the DC license for a year or something, but it's pretty cool. He does come with his ring, and let's see, does the figure have the ring? No, I don't see the figure having the ring, but yeah, there's Neca with their upgrade to this guy. Still very, very simplistic and very, very plain, but all the different muscles in there and all that kind of stuff make it a little bit better, not a lot. Here's Lothar carded, and I want to say that one thing I notice about these is that the weapons always seem to fall out of place on these figures. The little piece of tape doesn't quite hold it in place. There's his grappling hook, and it's strange how I actually got a used one that I thought was used, but it really was still new. That's interesting. And then I had a heck of a time getting that tape off there and using it. I thought someone did it after, like aftermarket kind of thing. So yeah, that was a crazy situation. Here it is on the back. Same. I think they all have the same exact card back, so I guess they save money on that, except for the little bio right here, where it shows Lothar, and he's the Caribbean Ninja. So now we're getting into Lothar, and so this is where you start seeing some more cool, interesting stuff with the toy line. So first off, his eyes look crazy, almost like he's possessed of that red in there. That's kind of cool. Articulation, head side to side. They have that Battle-matic, and then just this with the knee. That's it for... that's all the articulation these guys have. I never went over that, but yeah, not much articulation. He's got a lot of color on him. The problem with this guy, the green, the gray, the yellow, the dark gray, I guess, maybe into a blue. The problem is, I think he looks like a Captain Planet kind of character or figure, and I just never got into Captain Planet, so every time I saw this one, I didn't even know he was part of this line until I started researching it, and I was like, oh, well, that dude's part of this line. So he is one of the harder ones to get. I'm not sure why, but he does have a grappling hook. So with this grappling hook, it's kind of like the whip that you get with the Phantom, but it's in the opposite. He holds the thread, whatever, and so I got to set up where it's in his hand, and he can hold it. I don't know if it's even showing up on the camera. And then he's got his grappling hook. Now, I don't really know what kids are supposed to do with this other than like tie it in a knot maybe, which that's scary too. but he's kind of tied a knot so he can dangle or whatever. Now, he does have yellow rope, which I'm surprised they didn't use yellow string, because the rope on him is yellow for him to throw his rope, but yet he's got black string. So I would have thought they would have used yellow string, but anyhow, this is Lothar. Now, this one I definitely don't have a NECA version of, and I will probably get one when I see it at Target or something, and I missed out on the Fall Geek Out because it's my fault. So anyway, this is Lothar. Cool figure. Looks pretty cool. Comes with the signature blaster. And what do we got? One more good guy? Didn't we get into the bad guys? Next up, we have the last good guy, Mandrake. And gotta say, this is the hardest one to get complete and the hardest one to find out of all of them. I don't know why. You can look at like loose, missing everything versions, and he's the least number of them on there. I don't know why that is, but it is. And anyway, he's cool. Maybe people just like to have him as a magician, and then that's kind of interesting. But he does look like a magician because he is a magician, and so he's just in a kind of a boring suit, something you might expect to see Alfred wearing. Maybe I could call him your Alfred in your Batman 66 line or something. Just take his cape off, and the cape is really nice, soft goods. I mean, something that I wish that the McFarlane superpowers were this quality, and it does have the clip on it and all that kind of stuff. His face, it looks pretty cool. He's got a little mustache, some blue eyes, and a top hat that's molded in. Thank goodness it's molded in. Could you imagine chasing down a top hat that size? That would be crazy. He does come with, of course, his signature pistol gun that everybody comes with. That's good guys. Bad guys get a red one. And he has a magic wand, which in the show it's kind of white, like a white diamond or something at the end, and this is just all black, no paint app to it. So it should have, I mean, I'm sure it let kids down in back in the day, but we were so used to being let down back in the day when it came to stuff like that, that we just accepted that there was limitations and all that kind of stuff. But it should have had a paint app on there. Still pretty cool figure overall. I don't have the NECA or a carded one. It was hard enough to get this guy complete, but he is cool, and I'll eventually, of course, pick up the NECA one, which that thing seems to be in pretty high demand. Next up, we have Garrax, the ultimate evil robot, and he is with a power punch and includes a freeze gun. And again, accessories fall out of place with this toy line. It's crazy. But the back, it's programmed by the wicked hand of Ming. Garrax is the most villainous robot in the galaxy, evil leader of the ice robot army. He alone has the capacity to alter and adapt strategy of heroes and villains. So looking at Garrax, I'm going to say that he looks really cool. Comes with a couple of issues, collecting them 40 years later. Finding this strange ice gun of his, which looks like a utility belt knife thing. It covers his whole hand, which is cool. And that's the only way he can hold a weapon. He also comes with this, as we saw in the package. He comes with this gun, but no hand will hold it. No hand will hold it. And I think this is molded to only go on his right hand. Let's see if there's no way to put it on his left hand. So this other piece is molded to go on his right hand, placed on the left, on his left side of his packaging, which makes no sense. Really, a bunch of strange stuff going on with this figure, but he can't even hold his blaster. You can try to balance it in there, but then you're risking snapping that little peg off. It makes no sense. So you can just put it on your extra Ming over here and use it later in a comparison. So with that, he does come with this interesting sticker on his stomach of Ming. He's got a Ming sticker. I serve Ming. Yes, I do. And of course, he does have the Battlematic action like they all do. And I got to point out a few things. First of all, he yellows real bad. Second of all, his head definitely yellows really bad. And third of all, he's kind of boring. Only paint he has is on his head. And I guess they had to cost reduce everything because they put a sticker on him. But still, he's kind of cool because Garrax kind of led these ice robots. So, talking about the ice robots, if you were to end up getting a few of these, you could have like a little army. And it really doesn't make sense that there's 4 good guys fighting 2 bad guys. But it would make sense 4 good guys fighting a troop or horde of these guys. That makes a lot of sense to me. But in picking up a few extras as cheap as I could, I also found something quite interesting. If you look over here, we have a variant. So if you're going to look at all of these, you might notice something, that they all seem to have sort of a yellowish head, except for this guy. So I started looking at these and trying to figure out, why is his head not yellow? And when I looked really close, I noticed it's painted. So the European variant, for whatever reason, has the head painted. That is paint on there, and that's why the head didn't turn this strange yellow color. And here's why I believe. This was a very short run toy line, but I believe that they made a run of these for the US and other regions, but then when they made the UK and European area, that they realized that this was a yellowing already after a couple of years, or a year, or 6 months, or whatever, that they needed to paint the head so that it didn't do that. And that's what my belief is, but of course look at the rest of the body yellowing, no big deal, right? Next we're going to look at Ming the Merciless, and I just want to take this shot here and say, doesn't it make a lot of sense that Ming has his troop of, this is only 5 ice robots with Garrax, so that makes sense to me that the 4 good guys could go up against this bad guy army, right? Here is Ming in his card back, you know, the same type of card back as the rest of them. It says Ming the Merciless. If you look down below, he comes with his, includes cape and serpent staff, so I guess he controls his Mongor with it, I guess. Looking at the back, now I am watching this show, I'm not all the way, I'm nearly half of the way through it. Still have some interesting questions about the toy line and the show as I'm going, but 6 figures, 6 vehicle-ish, if you count Mongor as a vehicle, and then down here, funny how they say turn a knob, but they don't show him, they show Mandrake, and they show his picture without his cape on, but evil ruler of the planet Mongor, Ming, battling the unconquerable Flash Gordon for years in their constant clash of good against evil, desperate to seize and dominate the earth. Ming's greed for conquest has become his urgent mission. Now he wants to take over Earth, he doesn't want to destroy it. Okay, so here is Ming, and I think he looks fantastic. This is the best looking figure of the toy line, the coolest looking, and he is a little challenging to find complete. Now I'm going to explain why. Obviously, only Ming came with his staff, but then again, only each character came with their special weapon and accessory. And it does look like Mongor, so like we can compare the staff to Mongor's head, and it looks similar. If you kind of look at his staff and you look at Mongor's head, it's got a lot of similarity to it, almost, you know, it's the serpent staff. So there it is. Now the reason that these red guns are so hard to find is because there's only 2 figures, Garrax and Ming, that come with the red gun, the red pistol. And so with that, it's hard to track down those red ones versus the black ones, since there were 4 figures that were packed with them. And good guys are more popular than bad guys. So henceforth, the red little laser pistols are the hardest to get. So challenging. But this guy does look pretty cool. A lot of paint apps on his face, his head, even that little star that's in there, which is going to come in handy in a little bit when I talk about a variant. And then he's got this nice beard. This is not a goatee. This is more of a Van Dyke. How do I know? Because I know. And this chest area, he's got a symbol on there, which is cool. Just so many paint apps. This guy, like, they saved the paint on these guys back here, these 2, to just make him look awesome. And you had to do that in the 80s with bad guys. Bad guys didn't sell. They had to look awesome. And this dude did look awesome. He still looks awesome to this day. But let's get into looking at some comparisons. He does have a variant, a European variant. Okay, so here is the European variant, and at first I picked him up a while back and I didn't have him together. I had one of each figure on a shelf and I thought I was good, and I just had him stored somewhere else. But when I went to go make this video, I compiled everything I had together so that I could see what we have, and I noticed that they look different, and I thought, oh no, I got somebody's custom. And that's what it looks like. Look at the green on his face, all that green paint, heavy caked up green paint. But you start looking a little closer, and he's got black arms, blue on the chest and torso and all that kind of stuff, and the gold, and it's a different pattern that's on the waist piece, the crotch piece. All of this stuff adds up to the fact that this figure, the colors on this don't make sense to be underneath any paint apps on this, meaning this is a complete and total. It might be a KO. There's a possibility because the paint is a little sloppy in areas, but it's not a custom of someone else's because that headpiece, that head paint is just too perfect. They had to have used a paint stencil to get it that perfect, so that's how they got the paint app perfect on that guy. I think it's really cool and fun to have a variant in my collection, so henceforth it's just fun and something to look out for. But maybe it's a KO, and I hope they didn't knock off this whole line because I'll probably have to go after them. Okay, so Neca made this Ming here, and I have to tell you that maybe I wasn't paying attention. I think it was 2021 when he came out. And I've got to say that this should have made everybody's top 10 list of figures. Ming is outstanding. I think a lot of people are scared to put a NECA figure that year on there because everyone's bashing their quality. But as you can see, I've got 3 of them and none of them are broken. But just so much went into this, just like in the 80s figure. But NECA just ramped it up times 1,000. It looks fantastic. Even the staff is really awesome, and the staff looks a lot more like Mongor than even the original staff. Now, he's not perfect though. I mean, he doesn't really hold his staff very well, and he's not the most stable figure in the world, but he looks really awesome. Very good upgrade to the vintage Galoob version. Next up, we're going to take a look at Mongor, and he's the slithering evil serpent, carries Ming and Merciless to battle. I was not wanting one in the box, but I just wanted one, so that's what you have to do to get your stuff. At light up eyes, flickering tongue, saddle carries defender action. So it's pretty cool. Let's see what it looks like on the back of this thing, and it's going to look a lot like the card backs, and here we go. Now we got a much bigger picture of everything that was going on the standard card backs with the 2 helicopters, Mongor, and the 2 sword ships and a grip jaw. So we're going to talk about all of that, but pretty cool box. Okay, so here he is out of the box, and he looks fantastic. I want to say something about this figure. It's one of those things that it's so awesome that I wanted to continue collecting the rest of the line once I got them. I was like, oh, I got to go after the rest of these because there's not much to the line, and it's just so crazy they made him. He's just a giant snake, and he has some articulation to him. There's some cool stuff. Let's get a look at his head, and it's going to be kind of hard. Hope there's enough light in there to see. Now this piece here is removable, and it's made of a soft rubbery material, which is good, but it doesn't hold on very well. Because of that, he does have, his eyes will light up. You'll see that here in a bit when we make him move and do his stuff. And he does have a battery cover right down here, so this is where the batteries are kept in here. And so, let's open that up so you can see you got a couple of C batteries in there with the positive pointing up. And I don't know why my battery cover is discolored. That's just the way these are. Here's on the bottom, and he's got wheels that spin independently. You got a joint right here. You've got another adjustable wheel right here. There's like a dial to adjust it, but so you can have the direction that he's going. And this he clicks. I wonder if that's assembled on backwards, because the function doesn't function well. The tail, it actually clips on and off. So it is kind of loose goosey. I bet you it's been clipped on and unclipped a few times in its day. But looking at the back, we have some rubbery kind of stuff right there. But here is that's the power, and you can see all the stuff going on right here with the eyes and the tongue. But let's see it in action real quick. First, we're going to place Ming in this saddle, which is rubbery also, and I think you can clip it on and off, pop it on and off, but I don't want to. I want to keep it in place. So Ming just kind of clips right in there and holds in nice and tight. You could let his cape drape over. There it is. That is good. And then we're going to flip them on and see how this works. On this surface, I don't know if it's going to work very well. It doesn't actually work very well overall at all. So theoretically, the back wheel will catch it and push it forward. That's how it's supposed to work, but it just kind of does this. Okay, so the next two sets of vehicles we're going to look at are going to be pretty much the exact same thing, slight remolds and different colors. So I don't really know just yet exactly what's going on with these because I don't have much more information other than the card back and the little bit that we see in the show, which I don't see the choppers yet, or I missed them or whatever. So anyhow, this one here on the left is called the Defender's Claw Chopper. And so what it does is that it spins the helicopter at the same time when you pull the trigger, and it grabs. It's got like a grabbing motion to grab a figure. It's not very effective in grabbing a figure, but it does grab a figure. Let's see if it can hold my variant Ming. Yeah, it can hold the variant Ming if you're gentle with it, I guess. But this is... it's interesting that they made these. They reused a lot of parts and pieces on it to make what's called the Skull Chopper, and not the Skull Chopper. It is the Phantom Skull Chopper. So they both pretty much do the same thing. But let's look at them real quick before I mess around with the other one. So what you see right here is a different canopy. So this canopy is molded like a skull. This is more like a traditional helicopter. This detailing is exactly the same over here. The detailing is the same over here, and all of this. Now this is purple or this is blue. These are different. These pieces here are different angles than these pieces up here. Let's get them tail to tail real quick so that we can see that a little bit better. But as you can see, this is more of a sharp edge. This is more of a rounded edge. They just redid a few things just a little bit different on these to make them look different. And so you didn't feel like you're buying the exact same toy over and over and over. But as you can see, the propeller, this whole area, it's all the same. And, we're not really fooled by it. But, got to get what they can out of the line. There's 4 different molds for vehicles and stuff, but this guy does the same thing, except I think it does it a little bit better. Okay, it doesn't do it at all. The helicopter blade's not spinning on this one, so I'll have to look into that, take that sucker apart and figure all that out. But anyhow, still a pretty cool looking vehicle overall. And I do want to point a couple other things out. Okay, first off, when you open this up, there is here in the cockpit, there's not room for all their weapons accessories, but they can fit a blaster in there. There's a cutout in there for their Battle-matic action so they can still sit in there. And they have handles, but they're way too big for their hands, so you have to just imagine them holding onto those handles. Not sure why it didn't work, but it works now. Next up we have Flash Gordon's. It's called a sword ship. And I do remember this from the show. And one of the lines in the show was there's all the development of this sword ship. Is it worth all the money we spent, or the development time, or all that kind of stuff? But that was pretty interesting. And it's a cool looking ship overall. But it has a toy feature, a role play feature we're going to look at. Now mine doesn't have stickers on it. So if you can zoom in on this picture here, it shows a bunch of stickers on it. It does look better with the stickers, of course. But nobody makes repro stickers for this very obscure line. And getting one with stickers on it, it would have been nice to have one with stickers, but oh well. So anyhow, looking at it, it's bare bone, no stickers and all that kind of stuff, and it looks really cool. I'm going to pull the purple one out of the way. We'll come back and look at that here in a minute, but they're the exact same thing. So looking at this guy, it looks super cool. Now these fins are removable and they are easily lost, so if you come across one, they're most of the time missing. And so that's an issue. I'm glad I picked this one up. I actually got this one like a year ago or something because I just thought it was that cool. I just thought it was something so cool. I wasn't going to get the vehicles for this, but after Mongor and then this, and I was like, I'll just try to get the rest of them, I guess. So he does look awesome. Now these pieces here, these wings here do fold in, more or less for storage and also for another function and feature, but we're going to get to that here in just a second. And you can see it's got like some intakes, air intakes. It's got a triple 1, 2, 3 air intake, triple engine maybe, who knows? That's just a cool design. Same kind of the black that's used here is kind of in that, whatever that might be. Is that the radiator to cool it off? does have a clear canopy. Of course, it's got that yellow tinge, amber tinge to it. So they're really big on canopies being clear plastic and then painting that clear plastic, meaning that you got to be real careful with the joints because that's made of clear, brittle, clear plastic. Now, inside you have him literally laying down, which, you know, if you've ever driven a Corvette, you almost feel like you're laying down in that thing, you know, and especially a Lamborghini, I guess. I've never driven a Lamborghini, but I posed in front of one, so looking at this, there is another hole in it so he can fit his Battlematic in there, and a little bit of room for his feet in there. So it's pretty cool, but we're about to see what it's role-playing, and it's a cool idea for kids. For me, I thought it was really silly. So one more thing you can do here is, let's see, pull out on the nose cone. One of the things it's going to do is it's going to drop this down. So this could help you with flying it around if you want to, and then you can close these wings off. But you can also tuck it back up and you can turn it into a role-play sword. So let's go way back here. And your role-play sword, it's really strange. It's like a toy, like you're playing Voltron. And the purple one does it too, so you're doing that. No, not at all. Not at all. So that's what it's called, the sword ship, and I think that it does do that in the show too. So I guess it's kind of cool. I thought it was an interesting ship, but I don't like this gimmick at all. When you go to take it down, you need to close the wings off. Oh, come on, what's going on here? Close the wings so that you can open this, and this will fit in there, and then you can open the wings back up. That's in the instructions. That's what the one-sided instructions say. They say do it that way. Here's the purple one, and looks similar to the other one. It's in rough shape. My purple one's in rough shape. It was cheap. I'm okay with it if it's cheap in rough shape, and doesn't hold in the figure. And so everything's pretty much the same about it except for stickers and colors, stickers, and the fins that I don't have are, the fins are molded slightly different, kind of like we saw with the other vehicle, but yeah, it does the same thing over here. Lastly, we're going to look at Gripjaw. All I have is a picture of it, and I blew it up to what I think is the actual size, so kind of comparing this to a figure, I think this is about how big it is. The figure would kind of stand on the back and put his hands in there, and a figure would lay inside here, so his feet would be inside there and head up there, so he would lay inside there. I believe this is the accurate size and scale. Doc Brown might get me on this one though, that it's crude and not to scale, but I've come across a couple of these real cheap. They're usually not very expensive, but they're always incomplete, and I didn't know I'd go further with the toy line. And plus it's big. It's like a big chunk of something. Where would I store this? I definitely would be displaying it. Now, one cool thing about this is, first of all, you do kind of have like an energy chamber. I don't really know exactly what that is. Is it a healing energy chamber, or is it just the pilot? And then there's a figure hanging off the end. But you put your hand back here, and it's like a grabber. So you pull on the trigger, and that grabs down. So with that, the grip jaw, you grip it, and the jaw clamps down on whatever you want to clamp down on, Ming or whatever. So pretty cool, pretty interesting. It looks like they did use the kind of multi-area piece down here. I don't know if they included electronics so that the wheels roll. I don't know all that. I don't know any of that, but nobody's reviewed this thing yet. But I wouldn't mind getting my hands on it now that I've got the rest of it. All right, so this was my look at the entire Defenders of the Year toy line, 1985 Galoob, and it is a cool toy line to collect in 2023. Simply because the figures really aren't that expensive. The weapons and accessories are hard to get, as with most toy lines, but the figures themselves just really aren't that hard to get, and they aren't that expensive. The vehicles, when they do pop up, they're cheap. They're not very expensive either. So with that, there's not very many people collecting this, so there's not much competition at all. So it's very easy to collect compared to like G.I. Joe, where there's a million people collecting that. So I do think it's a fun show. It does feel very 80s, and a lot of the similar voice actors in there. And so with that, I'm curious what you think. Did you ever hear of this toy line? Are you in on it because of Neca? Neca's kind of what pushed me over the top to finishing this. And with that, do you know about this toy line? Did you already collect this toy line? Did you have any as a kid? Never had any of this as a kid. So it's kind of like a second childhood all again, getting to pick up all these and have a lot of fun with them and share them with everybody. So like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Jerry Manger out.
Phantom, look! What on earth is that?
The answer, my friend, is not of this earth.
In the right hands, my hands, it could smash the defenders into oblivion. I am Ming the Merciless, your friend.
Magic, my friends, is simply the art of illusion. I sop illusion with a little razzle-dazzle. Thank you. Thank you very much.